It's Christmas! Hi guys, welcome back to Casting Commons, the show where we talk and discuss all things Pauper. I am your host, Teasdale, and this is my co-host, Santa Claus himself, Reese. You look basically the same, right? It's not far off. Yeah, it's Santa. In his younger days, maybe, you know, when he didn't have white beards. Maybe he was ginger. Who knows? Before we start, please do not forget to support us by rating us 5 stars on Spotify, following us on Twitter at CastingCommons1 for obviously your most recent Pauper deck list, and of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. How you doing? Excited for Christmas? Woo!
Yeah, very. Nice to be off, nice to chill. Actually do some magic stuff, because I have some more spare time now, but good, all good.
Good. So, we are going to do a Pauper Thought of the week, which is sort of, we're just going to recap 2025. There'll be like another episode, right, between now and New Year. But it seemed like a very fitting time to sort of look at the year as a whole, I guess. So we're just kind of going to roughly go through month by month, sort of give you a vibe of what we felt like happened Pauper related, and sort of take you down memory lane of 2025 to see how good, bad, miserable, whatever you feel like it is, what sort of experience it was. But yeah, pretty exciting because I find these things, to be fair, I find these recaps always quite useful because you always feel like nothing ever changes. If you're in like a bubble of, I play Pauper constantly, like I haven't been playing much Magic lately, but generally, like, I used to feel like, oh, nothing's changed, everything's the same, blah, 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 blah. But when you look at it from, like, a month on month or throughout the whole year, it's like, oh, actually, quite a lot of things change. It's always, that's why I find it quite nice and refreshing. But anyways, so we'll start off, obviously, first month of the year, 2025. We had Innistrad Remastered, which is a one that I actually even forgot about. It did bring some downshifts, all not really very meaningful, which is kind of why we probably forgot about it. But
yeah, it was a weird one for sure. Like, I feel everyone was like hyped for downshifts, and then they were all basically just irrelevant.
Yeah, I definitely remember making videos on these, on quite a few of these cards. Like, I made like an Abundant Maw video. I played like Reality Acid with Imprisoned in the Moon, like stuff like that. I've played like Red Black Control with like Seize the Storm and stuff. There was obviously people quite hyped about like Essence Flux and Village Messenger, which didn't really sort of accompany to too much. But yeah, I think the only, I want to say this is a very loose, impactful, but probably to me the most two impactful cards from when I look back now is probably Brambleworm and Seize the Storm, which I wouldn't really say they're major impacts. Because obviously no one really, like, we occasionally see a Brambleworm, like in Mono Red Dredge, for example, for some reason, which I still don't think is correct to do so. But you've got that, and then you've got, like, say, Red Green Storm or Ruby Storm or whatever, which runs like Seize the Storm. So, but yeah, apart from that, nothing really too impactful, nothing too crazy.
I think the biggest thing the set did was reprint a bunch of older, not hard to find, but more awkward to find commons. So like Delvers, Voldaren Epicures, some of the Kiln Fiend bits like Festival Crasher and stuff like that. There was quite a lot of decent reprints for Pauper in there. Abundant Growths, like something for everyone basically, but just more reprints, less new.
They did an all bordered, right, as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
So like you got like all bordered Epicures and stuff.
There's definitely some all bordered Delvers.
Which is pretty cool. The month of love. February, as we like to say. We had Ether Drift released, which actually is I'd say a more impactful set than Innistrad Remastered. It didn't
more impactful than Zero.
Yeah, but it also it's a weird one, right? Because I remember when this set was spoiled, I was like, this set seems really good for making videos, but has very little like actual impact, was what my thought was going into it.
Yeah, I think some of the cards felt like they would do a lot more than they ended up doing. I think the Magmakin in particular, like that combo card, just basically did nothing. Hazard of the Dunes was another you were really hyped on for like Stompy, and again just didn't get there.
I think for Hazards though, I think I remember I really do like the card, and I think my end analysis was like this card will not see play as long as Writhing Chrysalis is here, but it's a fairly okay replacement if it does get banned. But obviously my assumption was that the BNR would bring Writhing Chrysalis out, but obviously it didn't at the time. But yeah.
There's some decent ones though that still see play. Grim Baubles, obviously a pretty good one. We've seen Black White do well last week. You've been high on the Migrate and Ketradon in the sideboard. That was from Aether Drift. And then Kitting Gravestalkers like the Cycle Storm, secondary Wincon, and Pactol as well. It won Pauper again, right? Has dropped off quite a bit since then, but at the time it's seen quite a lot of play, whether it be in Tron or the Gardens lists or the Whale Affinity lists. So it did change the format quite a lot for what in general is an underwhelming set. I think we need to shout out the best card for Pauper in the set though that you haven't spoke about and you haven't written in the notes. Can you remember what it was?
Have I missed one off?
You didn't put Light Wheel enhancements down.
Oh! Well,
the absolute goated Bogles card that every Heroic and Bogles deck has to play 4 of.
I did just generalise the notes with max speed because I started writing all these like cool zombie cards from Aether Drift because the Walking Sarcophagus was in there, and I was just like the land as well that was going to break madness, the discard draw land when you have max speed. I was like, I'm just writing all this trash. I'm just going to write max speed. I was like, let's just leave it at that.
I think what we found out was max speed is basically unplayable, so all the cards with it, unless they're already good, are just unplayable.
Yeah. I do think, I must admit, even though we're only in February, I do think flavour-wise, max speed definitely has to be the biggest miss of a flavour.
The slowest mechanic.
The slowest
max speed.
Yeah, it's just like, what? But yeah, there's one card that I guess I think it was actually in one of the challenges this weekend, which is Beast Rider Vanguard. A card that's sort of like flickered in and out of like sort of combo degeneracy sort of Wincon sort of thing. It's like a 2 and a 2/2 that you can look at the top card of your library or look top 3 or something and you basically draw your deck. We did say when it came out that it was awkwardly costed, right? That actually if it costed 3, it'd probably be better because you can transmute for it. Like especially in walls, but
because it was like the Vivian's Grizzly slot, right?
Yeah, and it seems pretty cool. Like it's very obviously has a lot of payoffs, but it does see a little bit of play, which is quite surprising because I actually thought it would see 0 because of how like awkwardly costed it is. But yeah, I
think just on a final card from Aether Drift, that was one that I think just went very under the radar and like basically no one talked about when it released. But then we have started to see cropping up in sideboards is Ride's End, the white removal spell. And it's 4 and a white for an instant, exiles a creature or artifact, but it costs 3 less to cast if it targets a tapped permanent. So 2 mana, exile a creature at instant speed if you're getting attacked, basically. I feel like no one really picked that up at all in the set reviews, but we have started seeing it crop up here and there, which is cool.
Yeah. I think the thing is, with those sort of cards, they print basically that effect every set.
Every set.
It's always destroy a tapped creature for reduced cost if it's tapped or whatever, or attacking, blah, blah, blah. You just automatically assume it's bad. But obviously, exiling is significantly better and obviously reasonably costed to do so.
Yeah, 2 mana's pretty legit. Like, you're playing Journey to Nowhere's. This is a permanent Journey to Nowhere if the guy's tapped, so.
Pretty cool. I would just like to shout out, obviously, my actual favourite card from Aether Drift, which is Engine Rat. For anyone who likes to play Pili Pala, always a goated Wincon is Engine Rat. But yeah, other than that, not really massive. The other thing I guess to note from February was we had the qualifier right. Obviously this was when Pauper was in the circuit for the mocks and stuff like that. We had the big thing from that we remember from looking back at our episodes was that Love Crayons with Mono Black Sack. was one of like the first big events for it to do really well, right? And this was like with the Reaping the Graves, sort of Carrion Feeder as we know it now, sort of mono black sack. Definitely the...
Yeah, obviously before Peregrine as well.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. Obviously, Love Crayons did a video on it as well, showed the sort of run, which I think this was really cool. It probably is the thing that put mono black sack on the map, right? And probably started people experimenting with it, putting the, time and effort into working this deck. Like, it'd be interesting to see if Love Crayons didn't do well in this. Like, would Strata Games have worked hard on their list, or would this, But he definitely put it on the map, and definitely... probably puts it as part of I would say almost as part of the metagame in general of 2025 anyways. Maybe not so much as of late, but definitely has done really well this year.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I've noted down from our episodes was that the Northern Pauper Open happened, and of course was won by West Coast Gamers again, which our sort of neck of the woods were... popping off.
Steel Explain Elves, this one.
Steel Explain Elves, and taking it down, which was pretty nice. But yeah, I think, to be fair, like, Elves was on, like, this sort of, like, first quarter of the year, like, Elves was on an absolute downer. Like, obviously, you've got Broodskill, you've got Kuldotha, you've got Deadly Dispute still there. Like, Elves was borderline a meme still, which is still an incredible feat to do so, but yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting to look back and, like, where Elves is now compared to where it was at the start of the year. It's like two drastically different places. It's gone from like tier 3, tier 4 to like tier 2, tier 1.
Definitely. Moving on to March, it was Paupergeddon. This was Paupergeddon Lecco. It was our first time in Paupergeddon as well. There was, I don't even know how many was there, 5 of us, 6 of us? Five of us.
It was a sweet one.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Obviously, we had the big impact of Ether Drift finally come through, won Paupergeddon, beaten, was it Jund Wildfire? Was it?
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
There was Broodskill was everywhere.
Broodskill was everywhere. Either Jund, Green, Black, and you had all sorts of different decks. I think Gruul did quite well as well, right? From memory. But yeah.
I think it was the height of Chrysalis, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. Damn you, Chrysalis. Still have a hatred for that card. I honestly, I wake up in the middle of the night in Chrysalis sweats. But yeah, pretty cool. I unfortunately decided to take Poison Storm, hoping to verse all these Jund Wildfires and Jund Broodskills and verse none of them. Yeah, it was a good time though. Really cool.
Yeah, hopefully we will be able to go back in 2026.
Yeah, hopefully. Moving on for April. April was the Tarkia Dragonstorm release. I actually don't know which. I could find out. I probably should have. Which one was first? So there was also a B&R, and there was a Dragonstorm was released. So I don't know. I can't remember which one came first. I'm assuming it was Dragonstorm.
I'm not sure.
But we'll go with Dragonstorm. It is. Tarkia Dragonstorm was released. Produced surprisingly, I would say, quite a lot of sort of playable cards, which I think I was quite surprised at as well, how strong a lot of these cards were. We've obviously got...
It was definitely a good set.
We've got like reprints or functional reprints with like the Enoch Wayfarer, which was one that was pretty big. Obviously, it was... it's a Bramblewood Prowler or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
For Dredge, because Dredge was quite popular this time. At this point, I think we were still on the 3-colour sort of Jund, sort of Exhume package sort of thing before that. We've then got Sagu Wildling, which is obviously known how impactful it is now, obviously, as the Omens were released, which shuffle back in. Really strong card. Another one on there was like Storm Shriek Feral, which obviously is another card that hasn't really had much impact now, but a favourite of mine for the Mogwarts fans out there. Got good sideboard cards as well, to be fair. We've got obviously Heritage Reclamation and I'm going to say Humbling Elder, but that's kind of like a bit of both for Mono Blue Face. Some run them in the side, some run them in, all that sort of stuff, which are really good. We've got the Control Player Love with Focus the Mind as well, card that's sort of seeing a lot more play than I expected to. And then we've got some like White Weenie trialed cards as well. Like people tried like Fortress King Guard, and then you've got Salt Road Pack Beast as well as the main one. So there's probably some more that I'm maybe missing. But yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest one obviously is Sagu. Like by far. It's still played massively now. Basically made the version of Spy that we see currently possible. Really cool addition to the format. And obviously goes in other decks other than Spy as well. We've seen it in Red Green Ramp, we've seen it in Elves. It's a sweet one.
I would definitely say, like, surprisingly as well for me, which I didn't expect, like Sagu Wildling is probably the most impactful card of 2025. And it's pretty much there, I would say.
Yeah.
But I'd say making Spy what it is today single-handedly, I would say, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think I guess it depends what you class as the most impactful of the year, because if we move on to the bans and unbans, High Tide was unbanned.
Yeah, of course.
Which basically changed the state of the entire format for 6 months.
Yeah, I can definitely...
So that could be in contention. But yeah, outside of the bans and unbans, I think Sagu is definitely the best card we've had added to the format.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, good segue. Obviously, as we said, we got High Tide Trial Unbanned, which was the first time we've actually ever seen Trial Unbans. We had that and Prophetic Prism, which was really cool. Like, really hyped to see. Like this to me as well. Like generally, this is probably the biggest movement in Pauper for 2025. Like the Trial Unbans himself. Like this opens up so much for the future for me.
Yeah.
Like they can trial whatever they want. You know, as I think, again, Trial Unbans were a massive success. Obviously, they have learning from experience. They've got, obviously, to improve on communications, which will go further down when we go into in the months. They did say, I think it was it July? July, they said they'd make an announcement, obviously, on the trials. Like, I think it was like July 31st or whatever it was. Something along them lines. And then, obviously, we had the bans, which was obviously a real big shake-up for the format.
Yeah.
A lot of them which we didn't expect. The obvious one was Brood Scale. We had Brood Scale banned, which was to no surprise for anyone. Then we had Kuldotha Rebirth, which was probably the biggest loss, and we're still grieving to it this day.
I'm still sad.
And then probably one that made the most sense, but probably wasn't on the radar for a lot of people, was obviously Deadly Dispute. Card was just obviously very, very strong and just in every deck, basically.
Yeah, it was just too ubiquitous. Like, it basically meant that any other 2-mana sack draw effect was just unplayable until you'd got your 4 disputes in, which is not really what you want it to be, especially when all the decks are like splashing black or hedging towards black so they can play a Deadly Dispute as well. Like, it was definitely a net negative to the format overall, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But it being banned did shake everything up, because there's so many decks just instantly lost this card. Some just stopped playing black altogether, and then obviously others found different ways to go off. Like Cycle Storm, for example, has their own Grim Search now instead of the Dispute. Affinity's just gone up on bargains and offerings instead. Cool.
Yeah, it was definitely a really cool shake-up. And that sort of that must have been the start of April, because I feel like the rest of April for our episodes, we were covering the format as a whole. And obviously we talk a lot in the back end of April about how, like, it's a new world and a new format. And obviously there's a lot of decks that you don't really, they were in like sort of like April, May, that we sort of take for granted now. Like Rally Red wasn't a thing. You know, Madness wasn't massively a thing. Like Mono Red Madness anyways wasn't massive.
Yeah. I think this point in particular of April in the year was by far the biggest shake-up to the format that we've probably had in the last few years, because Sagu, firstly, coming out, essentially made an entire new archetype viable. Like, Spy was obviously playable previously, but as a bit of a like tier 4 meme deck. Sagu
That's generous.
Allowed it. Sagu allowed it to develop into something that can contest for like one of the better decks in the format at points in the year. Kuldotha being banned resets the mono red spectrum, like we're at a point. We were at a point here where it was basically you played Kuldotha or you played Pingaburn, but Pingaburn was much worse than Kuldotha. Since Kuldotha's been banned, we've now got Rally Red, we've got Mono Red Madness, we've got the Sly deck, and we've still got Pingaburn that are all now being active play. And although Madness is probably ahead of the others, they're not as much worse between each other as there would have been to something like Kuldotha.
Yeah.
Deadly Dispute, obviously, I've already touched on, basically shook up every deck that played it because they were all pretty reliant on this card. And then Broodskill just essentially chopping off the head of the format. The best deck just is no longer there. Like, what fills that vacuum? And then to continue on the changes, High Tide then being on trial as an unban, first time being legal in the format, everyone was jumping on that, trying to make that work. And then Prophetic Prism throwing a tool to stuff like Flickertron, stuff like Affinity, throwing this tool back to them to say, oh, well, Deadly Dispute's gone, but you can have this. Shaking those up as well. It was a wild time looking back. It's a lot more change than I remember.
Yeah, exactly. Because you think to me, I think back and I'm like, this year seems quite quiet as a year when you think about it. I know it sounds like
it's because it was all front loaded.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, as you say, you're in April here, and that's like your peak point. Is April's like this point where you get this massive shit. And don't get me wrong, as you said there, the shakeup was huge, right? You've got all these different decks that need to try stuff out. You've got people who need to learn High Tide, this deck that's never existed before. You've got all these people on Mono Red that are running around like headless chickens, like, what's the best red things I play? You know, and then you've obviously got all these people who used to play all these decks that were no longer viable. You had all these combo players that couldn't compete because Broodskill was just the best combo deck. You have like all these control players that couldn't really compete because Broodskill was at the top of the ladder. And then also you've got like Jund Wildfire up there with Deadly Dispute, sort of like being the best mid-rangey control deck. But then obviously that getting loss of Deadly Dispute brings other things in. You know, you've got Flickertron, as I say, with Prism and stuff. It's really cool. Like, this shakeup is massive when you look back at it now. And like some decks, like the big thing for me is like you don't realize what decks didn't appear until after that.
Yeah.
Like obviously, as I say, you've got Spy with Sagu, you've got Rally Red. Like, they feel like they've been here forever.
Yeah.
But obviously they haven't, which is really cool. Moving on.
The contrast of May where nothing happened.
Yeah. So essentially, like as I said, nothing happened. The biggest thing for us is we reached 100 actual episodes. We did obviously more than 100 episodes by the 100th episode, if that makes sense, because we did a few bonus episodes. But 100 weekly episodes was our milestone in that month, which was pretty cool for us. And we're still going strong. Best podcast for Pauper. No contest.
Let's go.
But yeah, and then obviously a lot of it was, like, don't get me wrong, May was a quiet month in terms of, let's say, content and change, but obviously at this point, a lot of the format's still trying to figure itself out. You've got Rally Red, you've got Flickertron coming back, which we sort of touched on. Like, you got all these decks, like a lot of our April, May sort of episodes, for example, are literally just what is going on. Like, you've got so many unique decks in the format or whatever in top 10s.
It's sort of an extension, really, of what was happening in April. Everyone was just now developing those decks. So we're seeing a lot of changes in the challenges from, like, what is being played in particular lists and what's doing well and what new cards are being tried out and stuff like that. And the development of High Tide as well.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot of that with, obviously, the Arcane package sort of looking like it was going to come out on top.
Yeah, for sure. But it was quite interesting as well. I think I remember, I can't remember the name of the card, right, for High Tide. One of the cards that definitely seen play early on was it the Cypher? There's a Cypher card that untaps some lands.
Hidden Strings.
Hidden Strings, that's a card. And it, like, very early on was sort of, like, in there as, like, a flex slot. And then all of a sudden everyone was like, oh, Arcane's the way to go. Let's drop the Hidden Strings. And then, like, by the back end, like, speaking about it, like, before obviously it got banned, like, Hidden Strings, like, made this weird resurgence because it's, like, the biggest gap filler. that it was just like, 3 hidden strings is just correct, and like a lot of people were just like back on the hidden strings train. It was really funny.
The way it was basically like the Arcane Untapped package versus the alternate, so like versus the Hidden Strings Untapped package. Obviously the Arcane one ultimately was better, but then they're like, oh, we can actually just put these hidden strings in this Arcane package.
Yeah, it was really cool. Really cool to see the development of High Tide, regardless of what you thought of the deck. Like, watching people learn to play a deck that's sort of existed in other formats, pseudo briefly existed way back when in Pauper, when it wasn't really like a proper format like it is now. And then you've got like people learning this deck. It was incredible to see. And it was a cool time. Like that whole period of April, May and stuff like that was like really cool. For sure. Moving on to June. So June we had, the big thing was like Final Fantasy being released. Which got quite a few cards that I think a lot of people were hyped about. We had like Black Mage's Rod is the big one, I would say. People were obviously talking about like Cornered by Black Mages. You've got Instant Ramen in there, Mesidian Elder, Red Mage's Rapier, like Rook Turret as well, which was another one that everyone was absolutely mentally high on, which was funny to me looking back.
I think Final Fantasy in general, it was sort of ended up as one of those where there was a lot of cards hyped up at the start, but the actual conversion to what ultimately saw Off-Dilsey's plays like actually quite low when you look at what was hyped.
Yeah, definitely. Like to me, obviously, you've got the big ones that we've sort of like highlighted to an extent here. You got Black Mage's Rod, obviously still played today. Obviously, probably the best card out of Final Fantasy. Like, I would imagine. Then you've got like Town Greeter as well, and just another set of Wayfinder for Dredge, obviously really strong. Suplex is sort of like wasn't really that hyped. Was sort of like everyone was like, "Oh, look at the meme that he gets to flip a train or whatever it is." And then after that, I never really saw play. And then now over the back end of the year, it's sort of like, oh, people are realizing this card is actually good.
Yeah, it's sort of cycled back in.
Yeah, which is really cool. And then the last one is the white summon Choco Mob, is it called? Or Mog?
Yeah, Mog.
Yeah, and that's sort of it, right? We had like quite a lot of hype on the green one, which never went into like Gruul. You've got the red one just wasn't even very good at all. But they didn't have a full cycle, right? They just had white, green, and red. Yeah, which I always thought was weird. But yeah. We had a couple of cards that other people were quite high on, like World Map and Mesidian Elder. And the Mesidian Elder was sort of like in fashion for a little bit, and then it sort of like fell off.
Yeah, it's sort of a bit fringy, isn't it? You occasionally see maybe like one in a Tron list, but I think ultimately it's just like Murmur Mystic is just better.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got some decent changes. Obviously, Affinity getting Black Mage's Rod was quite big. White Weenie getting Summon Chocomog. He's like pretty huge now. It's basically just a staple of that deck. And then Town Greeter in Dredge was the upgrade Dredge sort of needed because it was stuck on the 4 state of Wayfinders, and then all the other mill guys were just like mill 3 or mill 2. Having another 2-mana mill 4 guys huge in that deck.
Yeah. And it sort of like ended up being quite a lot of mill 4s at that point, right? Because you have say Wayfinder, Town Greeter, and then people ended up running like Malevolent Rumble. So quite a lot of it ran like mill 4s at that point, which was really cool.
Yeah, you can cut the Bramblewoods finally.
Yeah. And I think, to be fair, I could be wrong on this. Marzaboy will probably end up correcting us at some point anyways in the comments or in the Discord, like he always does. But I'm sure it was still on at this point. Marzaboy or whatever hadn't really come up with this sort of 5-coloured Dredge yet. Like Town Greeter was the big one for this, I think.
Yeah, I think when it come out, it was still very much the Jund regular package.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. One card that sort of, I wouldn't say it's surprising I didn't do well, but is sort of like, at least didn't even see trialed, I didn't see it, was World Map.
Yeah.
Was one for me, which, like, obviously I wasn't really massively high on it, but I think it's a strange one. I would have thought people would have at least tried it, especially in somewhere like Flickertron, for example, where you don't necessarily need Tron, or even Mono Red Tron. But at this point, I think Mono Red Tron sort of died a death, right?
Yeah. I think it is a weird one because the Tron variants that we have now that actually see split. They sometimes don't even run 4 expedition maps.
Yeah.
So, and then a lot of the time they run like maybe 1 or 2 basic lands. So do you want world maps to be cheaply searching for your basics? But if you just have drawn your 1 basic, you then can't find it. You have to pay the big mod. Yeah, it just sort of didn't fit what it needed to.
But yeah, pretty interesting. But yeah, overall, so this was sort of to me like the start of Universe Beyond as well. I guess let's touch on that bit. It was sort of the start of Universe Beyond properly, where obviously we've had dabbles of like Secret Lairs and random crap and, you know, like Lord of the Rings, obviously. But this like was the first. I think it was because Lord of the Rings
isn't Universe Beyond.
Yeah, it feels like magic. Yeah. And then, but obviously this went to standard as well. So it kind of like, I felt like it was like in your face more and all that sort of stuff, to the point where I didn't hate it, right? I'm thinking, okay, if this is Universe Beyond, you know what? I'm not so against it. Obviously, Magic Online, we still have Final Fantasy cards, like all that sort of good stuff. You know what the card is what the card is. You know, there's no confusion, anything about it, whatever. Like I wasn't hating life when it comes to Universe Beyond at this point. I'm like, okay, sure, let's roll with it. Bring on the next one. But, you know,
I think this sort of did a reasonable job. There's some cards that are just really like, why is it like, what is this art, or why is this name a thing? That are really like, what's the word? Like, take you out of Magic. But I guess, like, for the most part, most of them were fine. They weren't as good as Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings just fit perfectly into the Magic sort of ecosystem. But it wasn't too far off.
Yeah, I definitely didn't feel like a bubble and rage, let's say, with this one.
We'll move on to that soon.
So then moving on to July, the big one, I guess, was the Trial Unbanned Day. I don't know if this was probably after Paupergeddon, because Paupergeddon was also in July. But you had Prophetic Prism was finally announced to be taken off the trial. Nobody was surprised by that, let's be honest. Card probably shouldn't even been put on the ban list in the first place, but that is what it is. And then the big thing, they decided to extend the High Tide trial period. So they were like, right, we haven't got enough information to make a conscious decision or whatever, so they're going to extend it. I didn't hate this. At the time, I definitely didn't hate them extending it. They basically said, look, we need more data. It's not too oppressive. It's not too absolutely broken. It needs gone. Let's take more data, take more time. I am not against this at all. And I was happy with this communication.
Shows a flex of what they can do with the trial system as well, if they choose to.
Yep. Then moving on, we had Paupergeddon. I believe this was the first Paupergeddon that they uncapped the tickets, which then led to basically being one of the biggest events that we've ever had, which had over 1,100 players, I believe. Someone will definitely be able to correct me on the exact numbers.
Turns out if you let people buy tickets, they will buy tickets.
Exactly. For sure. Which was pretty cool. It was a cool to watch Paupergeddon. Like, we obviously didn't go to this one. But yeah, it was cool to see. They had I think they had Will and Emma on the commentary booth and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was generally all well and good event. I don't think there was anything from memory. I don't think there was anything like breakout. It wasn't like the mono black Packdoll deck didn't like appear and take over the event. There was nothing too crazy. Like people were expecting like Spy to do really well, I think, from memory. Because there was a lot of like people working on different Spy lists at this point. Because we had the 5-land Spy, we had the 6-land Spy, and then people were then going down to 4-land Spy. I think, to be fair, they had the Player of the Year event, I guess, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And this was where the Spy Walls first appeared, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, and I'm talking out loud. The Player of the Year event, which I didn't actually check, had the Spy Walls player without the combo in. And this was just using Overgrown Battlements and Axebane and stuff like that as mana sources, which obviously we'd never seen before. Anyone that played Spy Walls was basically jamming Spy and Walls in combos in the same deck, which was really cool to see. But that was probably it. But I don't think there was much. There was a couple of people, I think, who then bought the deck to play in the Saturday, but it wasn't like a massive breakout deck on the actual main event, I don't think. Moving on to August. August, we had another set release. It's like set release, miss one, set release, miss one. It's like a running theme of the year. We had Edge of Eternities, which I was pretty high on. I was really high on this set, you know, like flavor wise, like being in universe, is that what we call it nowadays? And
it was definitely a cool one. I feel like people sort of were a bit apprehensive coming to it, but then when it actually come out, it was a really sweet one.
For sure. Had a lot of cool cards that a lot of people were sort of like high on. And I think which we'll sort of touch on afterwards, but we'll go over the cards first. So there was quite a lot of good cards which people were high on. There was obviously Temporal Intervention, which was the 1-mana Thoughtseize, which obviously a lot of people were very high on, myself included. Cryogen Relic was obviously a big one. Ilvoy Galeblade, the flash sort of jellyfish for fairies, was another big one. We had Lux Night Breacher as well, which was a one that a lot of people were quite high on as like a All That Glitters replacement. There was Nutrient Block as another food for cat fans. Melded Moxite was a big one, which at the time I would probably say wasn't massively hyped. It was sort of like people registered as a card of, oh, this card's cool, it's another 2-mana discard draw, blah, like, you know, like it could be at this point, do people play in Madness as like an artifact package to get access to Galv Blast and stuff like that? There was like, but other than that, it wasn't too super crazy. It wasn't like this is the greatest card of all time or whatever. But yeah, which was quite surprising.
I think, to be fair, a lot of the cards that have actually went on to do well were sort of went under the radar because stuff like Cryogen Relic and Lux Night Breacher and Temporal Intervention were all hyped beyond belief. And then could never deliver on that level of hype. I think obviously Lux Night Breacher was a massive flop that basically just is not good and doesn't see play. Cryogen Relic flopped a lot harder than I expected as well. Like everyone expected it to just be like a 4 of in Affinity and stuff like that, and then now it's maybe a 1 of and sees no play in anything else. And then same for Temporal Intervention. Everyone was like super hyped on that. Oh, Mono Black Sack's gonna play this, or Gardens will play this, and just it just doesn't see any play again. But that sort of let the cards that were under the radar find homes, and I would say overperform in those homes. Obviously, Melded Moxite has made the Boros Synth deck into essentially an entire new like offshoot of Boros Synth. Made its own home there with Sneaky Snacker, and then Energy Beckoner completely transformed Mono Black Sack, give it some of the most bonkers like go off turns ever. And he's become a staple in that as well. So I think they're definitely my 2 winners from EOE.
And again, though, you still have like Nutrient Block doing work as well in like Gardens as well. Like obviously there's the Cat Gardens that Truffaz is playing, which does really well. Seems to pop up in a lot of challenges and again perform. It's like a really solid 1-mana decent food, unlike Candy Trail for the cat, which really makes it perform, which is quite surprising. But yeah, and then we have some cards that obviously, I wouldn't say were mentioned as such, but were definitely cool and had the potential for a lot of other stuff. Like Gene Pollinator, people were pretty hyped on trying because it tapped a permanent, so you could try like 5 color piles. That's the like Springleaf Drum. People were interested in trying the Pinnacle Kill Ship, which is that spacecraft thing for Cascade Tron, which is like, again, not too crazy, not too exciting, but things that people really want to brew around as well.
I guess my last 2 points for EOE, one of them will be realised in September. We got Exosuit Savior, which was 2 and a white for a 2/2 flyer. That when it entered, it returned up to 1 other target permanent you control to its owner's hand. That guy seen quite a lot of hype, and then just nothing came of it. But the September set release will give us something very similar that does see play. And then the other card is Diplomatic Relations, that when it was previewed and how it is printed was talked about a lot. It's basically 2 and a green for an instant. It gives target creature +1/+0 and vigilance until end of turn. And on the card, it says it deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. But the basically, so you could play it on your opponent's guy and make it hit their other guy, as well as it just being a reasonable sort of thing you can put on your own guy. But then they changed that, right? So it only you can't play it on opponent's creature, or it only hits opponent's creature or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's target creature you control deals damage equal to.
Okay, yeah, there you go. They removed the ability to do that, which then killed the hype completely because it's just not really a good playable card in Pauper outside of that.
Yeah, it essentially become like a green, in air quotes, a green Doomblade, right? You don't need to have a load of creatures. You can literally just, if your opponent's on the aggro, you go, that creature kills that creature.
Yeah.
Which is to be fair to me, I don't think it would have been absolutely insanely broken. However, I do think, obviously, the idea, I think, was it broke Colour Pie. That obviously their kill spells are usually your creature kills their creature because you're a big green beast dude going, whoa, poof. But, yeah, which is a bit of a shame, but because obviously that card was obviously much more interesting as printed anyways. I think, for me, I do agree for the exoskeleton guy. Like, a lot of people did see hype on it. I feel like, I don't know how to describe it without sounding like a dick, but I feel like the people that hyped that card had never looked at what is legal in Pauper.
Yeah.
Basically, because there's like 4 other variations of like Skyfisher. They're just not good.
And they all got 3 most, like for the most part.
Yeah. Like, I guess...
So we know the rate is not right.
Yeah. It was like, there is... Like, don't get me wrong, there's a 2-mana one, but it's a 2/2, and it doesn't fly. And then there's, I think it was the only 3-mana one that flew, I think, the exoskeleton guy, but I'm like, really? Is that what's making you hype it? That it's a 3-mana guy with flying? Have you seen what's legal in Pauper? But, hey on. But yeah, and then after that, which is the thing that was cool to see was week 1, we got a ton of AoE cards. Like, a lot of people were trialing Cryogen Relic. There was the Cryogen Relic Abjure deck, sort of like blue-black hard evidence Abjure, which was really cool. And then I think we had Ilvoy Gilblade win week 1 of Fairies with, I think, was it Bath or something like that? And that was awesome. And then, like, I think the next 2 weeks basically featured 0 AoE cards, or very few, which was a bit nuts. Like, we had, like, a really good... Like, top 8 had, like, 3 to 4, like, AoE cards week 1, which I thought was incredible. Usually it's slow burner, but no, it was just pretty nuts. Moving on to September. So September, we actually had another set release. We didn't even get a break on this one. I think it was the end of September, to be fair. I think it was, like, start of August and then end of September, but still... we had Spider-Man released, or Spider-Man and Through the Omen Pass released, which is also an important thing to mention. So, I guess, starting on the actual cards, I guess.
Yeah, I think for the most part, there was a lot of hype around a lot of cards in the set. The vast majority of which has done absolutely nothing. I think that the biggest example that I remember of like everyone being absolutely nuts about this card and just it not doing anything at all was Mob Lookout.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You can't even remember it. It's that bad. Basically, all the fans Discord were like nuts about this 2-mana or 3 that when it enters, it makes a creature connive. For some reason, and I just remember looking at it and being like, "Yeah, this card is just bad," and obviously it has done nothing because it is bad. But some of the cards that got hyped actually seen play. Mask Meower, which is the 1-mana 1/1 haste, discard a card, sack it, draw a card. Although mostly recently I've started seeing a bit of play. We've seen the Kitchen Imp, the Wetdo or Being of Bees Swarm man sort of see probably a lot less play than was expected. I think most people expected it just be like a 2/3 of instantly, and it's more like occasional 1 of in Madness. And then the other card that is sort of like that Exosuit guy, which is probably, I would say, one of the most hyped cards of the set, right? The Spider-Man Webslinger. which is a 3-mana 3/3, and you can web sling, which is basically cheats cost for a single white if you return a tapped creature. But even that's not seen that much play. It's like maybe a 2 of in White Weenie sometimes.
Yeah, I'd say the set like stock list now would probably run two of those, and then like 2 or 3 of the summons from Final Fantasy earlier in the year, which is sort of would be where I would probably say a stock list runs, which is cool. Like we've obviously got a significant amount of change in White Weenie through 2025, which is cool.
But like the hype just extended to like nearly every common in the set was getting talked about. It was wild.
I think
like the Spider Islanders and the Spider-Man Brooklyn and the Manifestation, the big dinosaur, like nothing was off the table. Everything was being hyped.
I think for me, the thing that was really weird about Spider-Man, right, is obviously everyone knew that it wasn't supposed to be the set size it is. Like that was common knowledge.
All the commons are just added afterwards to make it a playable set.
Yeah. And then because of that, you also got, with the Universes Beyond sort of flavour, you got legendary creatures. And then you got this sort of like pseudo mechanic that's kind of like a really good mechanic in Pauper. You get the web slinger stuff, which is sort of like ninjutsu impression.
Yeah, it's like a cost reducer mechanic in there.
So then you basically, from that, you have legendaries that have ninjutsu, which then, obviously in a set that basically that haven't been tested, just sort of meant like, wait, looking at these cards is how good are these cards? Like some people have played the Brooklyn Visionary, the green one that like cultivates. Like I seen that in a 5-0 league not so long ago in like Gruul or something. And it's like, these cards, like, are they actually any good? Probably not. But it's like, do you know this when nobody's like, even the people who've made these cards haven't properly tested these cards.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like the potential of this legendary, because when you look at it from the perspective of Pauper as well, Cast Down is like the most, like, it's the test of obviously removal. That and Bolt just obviously means that if it dodges this and dodges this, it's like close. So like a lot of people were like, oh, is this good? Is this good? Like the web slinger that obviously dodges Cast Down is not nothing, right? Which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it's quite funny when you sit and look back at it now. Like, you can tell like most of the cards are just overcosted.
Yeah,
I'm assuming to make sure they don't see play because they haven't been tested properly.
Yeah.
I don't know really if there was a biggest winner from this set because out of the cards that see play, none of them are that ubiquitous.
No.
Skyward Spider, I guess, is probably the one that has changed the deck the most. Basically being a new semi-stable in Heroic, it's usually a 3-of, and it's altered the deck to basically make it so it can be modified more easily with whatever the Innistrad spell is that I cannot remember. Something Courage. Was it Courage?
Yeah, like Courage or something like that.
And the land that you hear as well.
Sandstone Bridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the rest is just sort of slot-ins as 1 or 2 of for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. But I think, by the way, as well, also, when you play that Heroic deck, there's sometimes that card is so bad. Because it's just added in. It's just like a 2-mana 2/2. If it literally said 2-mana 2/2 Ward 2, I occasionally have flying every other turn, it'd probably be just the same card. Not even joking you. But yeah, like it's funny to see that card is the card that's definitely like impacted Pauper at the most part compared to the rest, which is cool. Like it's cool, don't get me wrong, because it's different, but it's so funny because it's so weak. But yeah, I guess the only other 2 things I kind of want to mention for this Spider-Man set is the thing about we did see briefly throughout the year, Red sort of start to get mana acceleration as well. Like people were talking about that there's a rare or an uncommon in Final Fantasy that adds mana and you can only spend it on equipment or something. And then sort of like 2 sets after or whatever, we had Spider Manifestation, which obviously a lot of people were high on because it's hybrid mana. So you can actually just play it in red. Obviously that hasn't accumulated to anything, but a lot of people have tried the Spider Manifestation out in random decks. But yeah, it's quite interesting to see that basically over this year, that like red seems to have got like actual just mana dorks slowly, which is another random thing, but weird. Yeah. I think the last thing I mentioned of September was that the roadmap for 2026 was announced as well. Was that like a MagicCon or something? Like MagicCon Orlando?
It shows how little Magic sets we're getting.
Yeah, and it basically highlighted that we get a Magic in-universe set at the start of the year, and then we basically get a bunch of Universes Beyond sets, basically. Roughly. That's kind of it, right? You get Strixhaven, I guess. You get Strixhaven in the middle. Just once you've boiled up a little bit of all these like Universes Beyond stuff, and it's like bang, see, look, we give you Strixhaven. Chill out, bruh. Moving on to October, I guess. We got what was supposed to be the BNR, right? So when they extended the trial for High Tide, they said November is the general BNR for like the rest of other Magic that nobody cares about. But we'll make sure we do it before. We'll have one, I think they said early October, late September, early October, I think is what they said.
It got changed a few times, didn't it?
And then basically the waited till, I think it was like, from our time, it was like the 15th of October, 11:59, basically. So it was like almost past mid-October. And it's like, no, we're moving it to a line. Because at this point as well, they'd moved the BNR for the general BNR earlier 2 weeks or something along them lines. So then basically the PFP had went, nah, we'll move it to with them because it's basically the same time. It's 2 weeks earlier now, so we'll do that. So that moved it out to November. This is probably...
The communication wasn't great on that, though, was it? It was poor.
And that's what I mean. Like, this was my biggest thing that I disliked. Probably the biggest thing, actually, I disliked this entire year was... and I'm not even... and it's so small, and I really do wish that... Like, obviously, they've got to learn from this when they do next trial and bans. Is the biggest thing they need to do is communicate. Any communication, if they're thinking about moving it, just tell us earlier. Just don't wait till people tweet you and... You know what I mean? Just literally just say, nah, we're going to move it. Always messing about. Open and honest communications is the key to success. That is it. Anyways, rant over. November, The Last Airbender is released.
Yeah.
A set I didn't gel with. Like, I am not The Last Airbender fan. I didn't hate it. Maybe that's just because lessons were in it, but I didn't hate it. I didn't think, oh my god, this is Spider-Man all over again. We're gonna get, Hot Dog Cart as a Magic card or whatever, like. I wasn't that bothered. It felt very Magic-esque or Magic adjacent, but I wasn't too fussed. Yeah. The art I wasn't bothered about, but I don't really care about Magic art half the time. So, sure.
It was another one. It wasn't too bad. It was sort of like Final Fantasy where most of the cards were sort of fine, like the sort of fit. They felt maybe a bit like Portal 3 Kingdom-y or something like that. But then there was just a few cards that stood out as like, this makes it obvious that it's Universes Beyond rather than actual Magic set.
Yep. But
exactly.
But
yeah, despite again absolutely loads of hype for lessons. What we're doing.
I think to be fair, regarding this set though, obviously all of this set was basically lessons. Like most spells were lessons, so people have then got a lot of stuff to digest. Right? People are putting like lessons in there. Does this make these learn cards good? Doesn't it make these learn cards good? Is this card good enough to main deck? Blah, blah, blah. All that sort of stuff. You've got like a lot of stuff to sort of digest on what that lesson tag actually means.
Yeah.
Most of the time it means they're probably bad and never see play. But it adds a lot of food for thought. Like you've got obviously people playing, myself included, Mogwarts with newer lessons. You've got people trying pop quiz in FAMs with a lesson sideboard, which is interesting. Like, there's a lot of tools that people are still playing with. Does it mean they might see play in the new year? Maybe, but probably not. But
yeah, I think it was obviously it's a very risky place to be. Like we've said this before, where if you're just turning your cards that learn into demonic tutors for whatever you need, like it's not ideal. Thankfully, that hasn't happened yet. Mostly because the learn cards, for the most part, are pretty bad. And the lesson cards, for the most part, are pretty bad. So a bad effect, you have to play a bad card to get another bad card is not great. But yeah, if one of the lessons or one of the learn cards in Strixhaven, assuming the return of that mechanic, is pushed a bit too far, there could be an issue. I think for the most part, though, this set wasn't really that impactful at all.
No, not really.
Off the top of my head, I can sort of think of one card that stands
Pretty
out.
much.
Basically, everything else is just chaff. Which
Pretty
is not
much.
the worst thing.
No.
Given it's a Universes Beyond set, we see less Universes Beyond if it's all unplayable. But
I also think not every card needs to, like, obviously we don't need loads of cards, and I don't hate the fact that just one card is standing out as well, for sure. I don't hate this at all, generally.
I think more than one would have been nice, but one is good.
Yeah.
It's better than none.
Yeah.
But yeah, Abandoned Attachments definitely stands head and shoulders above the entire set, basically. Yeah, is a very cool card, a very cool addition. It is a lesson, but for the most part, that is just completely irrelevant. The fact that it's blue and essentially a 2-mana discard a card, draw 2, like a red effect, but in blue. Yeah, just sweet. Means Sneaky Snacker can go into the blue-black Terror decks and actually be good, rather than having to play stuff like Modern Age to discard it and then get it back, maybe if you can cast another cantrip as well. This is just the perfect setup for Sneaky Snacker in a blue deck. Also, like, Tribe is sort of maybe an out for this. And then the more wild end of the spectrum, which we spoke about last week, the Eidolon deck. Yep. Sort of returning. This is basically the exact perfect card for discarding Eidolons. It does what you want to do and is multicolored, so it also does what you want to do. Yeah, very cool.
Yes. You almost want to say this card should abandon attachment from the set. But
I think, to be fair, if this come out sooner in the year, I would be putting it up with Sagu for most impactful card. But I don't think we've seen its true potential yet, because obviously it's been out for like a month. Yeah.
I think that's definitely the case for this set in general as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think anything really is going to impact much, but obviously it's only been out a month. We've had so much change with Abandoned Attachments, which is really cool to see. As you say, you've got it with Eidolons, you've got it with Tribe potentially, and you've got it with, obviously, Snacker's the big one. But everything's been out a month. Like, that's still early days for a format like Pauper. So it'd be cool to see if any more card, like, we could be talking mid 2026 and we do get a card that's really impacting Pauper from this set. Who knows? But yeah, because we did talk about there's some quick sweet stuff in there. Like, there was some allies, which obviously is a returning tribe that we haven't really had support from. And then there's is it the Fortune Teller? That's what's the type? Advisor, right? So obviously that deck's not a great deck in general, but eventually you'll get enough advisors that it will be, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, of Abandoned Attachments. The next thing that happened this year, I think it was actually before Avatar as well. I'm not 100% sure. I can't actually remember. And it was only a month ago. How the hell did we cover 12 months? I can't remember a month ago. Is High Tide was removed from trial, unban, and was basically rebanned.
Sad.
Very sad.
Mainly because the reason's just a bit bullshit to me.
Yeah.
Or the reason that they gave was not great. But anyone who doesn't remember, it was basically that the play pattern was unfun. Which is not really a thing you can build a format on, because it's an opinion. So it's like, well, are you just going to ban every deck that you dislike? Are you just going to ban, like, what's the line?
Yeah.
Jund Wildfire is unfun to play against. Like, are you banning Wildfire? Like, Cycle Storm, or you're sitting there and they're cycling away. Well, that's unfun, so you got to ban that, right? Like, it's not a good place to have put a stand, to have taken a stand, basically. I think if they had not included that point and just said it was better than we hoped, but it was better than we expected it was going to be, we're not happy with it, we're going to ban it, no one would have said anything.
Nope.
But the fact that they hinged their entire argument on, it's unfun, it's an unfun play pattern, so we're going to ban it, like, that just, to me, throws everything up in the air and into question, like, familiars. I don't like sitting against familiars when they're going off with a ghostly flicker. That's unfun. Surely that should be banned as well. Like, where is this line?
Yeah, I agree. Again, we obviously talked about this. You were swanning it on your honeymoon, and we did have Callie on here at this point talking about it, and it was my same argument then. Like, you can't bring fun into a conversation when it comes to banning cards. Like, obviously, Top, for example, was in Legacy, in the same sort of thing, in the sense that people are topping like crazy, the times are going to time, like it's going to time, everyone's having long turns. No one went, oh, it's unfun to play against. They just went, no, it's extended tournaments.
It was a time issue, yeah.
So if that's the thing, you're sitting there for 25 minutes while your opponent sat there rolling a dice because of the board, use the tournament setting as an actual thing. Don't bring fun into it because, as you say.
Yeah, I think just to sort of play both sides, you can bring fun into it, but everything has to be looked at under the same lens if you do that.
Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, this is unfun, and then never say anything else about fun again.
Yeah.
Like, you have to look at every deck in the format and say, is this fun? If it's not, well, we've set a precedent. We have to ban it because it's not fun. It's not a good place to be, really. Or
even if that's the case, as we talked about, basically, if you're going to bring fun into it, it should be, you don't necessarily have to look at everything, but look at everything from a percent. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is this much of the meta game.
Yeah.
I'm banning it because of fun. Like, you don't, like, necessarily, like, for example, Cycle Storm might not need to be looked at because 2 people are playing it. Do you know what I mean? But, for example, when it was, what was it, the 10th, 12th most played deck or something? High Tide? Like, anything above that, argue if that's fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, pretty much a shame. Big one, like, I didn't care. Like, I wasn't fussed about versing High Tide. I didn't particularly find it fun. I didn't particularly find it unfun. I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not whatever. But I was a bit disappointed, definitely 100% disappointed in the reasoning, which was a bit of a shame, really, because the whole trial and ban to me, like, really worked. And it was just a shame it ended on such a downer. And then that sort of leads us to December, which we're obviously in now, and sort of the lull of, obviously they don't release any sets, you've just got challenges. We do have probably a shift, I guess, more from, I guess there was, I guess we completely missed Geddon, right? Geddon was sort of the end of November. We had Core Gates make a resurgence with High Tide being banned, I'm guessing. You've got, like, the metagame has shifted from Geddon, right? You've got a lot of the blue-white decks. You've got the Abandoned Attachments Terror sort of making a resurgence since Last Airbender come out. And people, like, obviously you've got still people experiment with the Last Airbender, as I said. Like, I think Skura, like, a few weeks ago, was, as I say, testing Lessons fams. Kalikai's is doing Ruby Storm with first day of class in with some Lessons sideboards. Like, people are trialing all sorts of stuff with the change of Geddon, the change of High Tide, and also the release of Last Airbender. I forgot the name of the set. That's a Universe Beyond set.
Yeah. But sweet year overall. It's cool to look back on and see how much has actually changed, because obviously you only really remember, like, the last few months, and you're like, well, nothing's really been shook up in Pauper. But when you look back, especially at April time, like, how much the format has changed since then is quite impressive, really.
Definitely. If we have missed anything, by the way, best way to tell us, there's a feedback tab in the Discord. Don't forget to join it. Tell us anything that we've missed that you think you remember vividly. Be pretty cool. Also, just to let you know, there'll be no hot take or end segment until the new year. We're obviously going to rework that segment. We did touch on it last week, but just a reminder. And there's no tournaments.
Are we going to rip through some challenges? I feel like we've been speaking forever.
Yeah, so we have, obviously, that was a big, long segment. We're about an hour and 10 minutes in, which is a long, long time. So we are going to, luckily though, we kind of picked this recap quite well because the challenges aren't that exciting. So we're all right.
Yeah, they're not really.
So do you want to start with Thursday and we'll just fly through some challenges?
Yeah, so Thursday the 18th had 51 players, so still maintaining pretty good numbers on the Thursday. First place was Rakdos Madness. Second place was Mono Red Madness. Third place was Mono Red Sly. Fourth was Mono Blue Terror. Fifth was Grix Affinity. Sixth was Fams. Seventh was another copy of Rakdos Madness. And eighth was Mono Blue Fear. And then the two nemesis, ninth was another copy of Rakdos Madness. And 10th was Mono Blue Terror. Interesting that basically Rakdos Madness has been not really anywhere, not really doing much. And then has come and put 3 back in the top 10 of the first challenge of the week, which is pretty interesting. But let's see Mono Red Sly being represented still in the top 8 as well. Obviously, Mono Red Madness is sort of known at this point, although the list or Daniel played to this second place had 2 Skittering Kittens, which is the Spider-Man
Masked Meower
in, basically instead of 2 Lutons, which is interesting. Obviously, we've spoke about people playing that before. But yeah, pretty aggressively slanted challenge, I guess, overall, with Fams and Grix's Affinity really being the 2 outliers. Everyone else is attacking pretty hard.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about the only thing I mentioned for me is the madness. Obviously, as you say, 3 in the top 10. We sort of seen it bubbling last week, right? But then this week's it's sort of come to fruition. I think it's an interesting reaction to the meta game, I would say. Like, as I sort of we touched on last week about, you know, it's got a good madness matchup. It's sort of like reasonable against core gates and stuff. Like, you've got like a lot of good stuff going on for the current position, the way the meta game shifted. So I'm not surprised of the Red Black Madness success, but cool to see the transition slowly, for sure.
Yeah. The Friday, the 19th, also 51 players. So snap, and that's pretty good numbers for the Friday, to be fair. First place, Mono Blue Fair. Second and third, a pair of Grixis Affinities. Fourth and fifth, a pair of Rakdos Madness. Sixth, Elves. Seventh, Mono Blue Terror. And eighth, another copy of Rakdos Madness. So 3 in the top 10 once again. And then the 2 nemesis, ninth was Mono Red Madness. And 10th was Jund Wildfire. Yeah, even more Rakdos Madness. One of them, the 4th place one, I think I'd highlighted, was quite an interesting list. It basically cut 2 Epicures. For 2 Black Mages Rod, and then it like changed up its draw package. It has 3 Sazcap brews and only 1 Highway Robbery, and then it's got to be 61 cards for some reason. So the 61st card is a one-off First Sphere Gargantua, which is basically the 6-mana Phyrexian Rager with Unearth. Yeah, sure.
I would argue that this card probably hasn't seen play since before Kitchen Imp was printed, right? I feel like this was like sort of like a weird madnessy payoff before that, but that's how long ago. Like, I haven't seen this card for a long time.
I feel like it was never really playable, to be fair. It's never really seen that much play.
Playable is the air quotes. But yeah.
It's a very strange list. Then like to go up on Sazcap brews, but then cut the Epicures that you would be pumping to attack with, like, is strange as well. I'm not really sure what I think. Obviously, there's the Black Mage's Rod doing the spell thing is fine. Like, we've seen that in Madness before. But it's also not the Gal Blast version. It's just like the straight up version. So the Black Mage's Rod sort of gets a bit less relevant there as well.
Yeah, I think. Like, I don't hate the Sazcap's brew, because, like, you've sort of, like, you've sort of technically upped the creatures, right? Because you've cut 2 Epicures, but added 2 Black Mage's Rod, but then you've also added a 61st card, which is a creature, but, like, I don't hate it, but it doesn't seem fantastic. But I think the main thing I do like about this list, though, is the Black Mage's Rod, right? It just seems really well positioned. It just adds that more different coloured ping and, like, chip damage. That really helps. Like, obviously, like, I think this is much better than, say, like, Flame Breather, for example, because it just helps. Well, first of all, the creature's black, so obviously helps against strands and stuff for, like, core gates. And it just, like I say, just sits there and does something, and then if not, you can just re-equip it. It's pretty good. I don't mind the Black Mage's Rod switch. The Gargantuan, however, I'm not a massive fan of.
Especially as the 61st card.
They just needed a 5/4 with haste that they can attack and go Sazcap's brew it, make it 7. Got him.
Other than that, the other lists were sort of fairly normal and straightforward. Moving on to the Saturday challenge, Saturday the 20th of December. 47 players. First place was Green Black Fog. Second place was Mono Blue Terror. Third place was FAMS. Fourth place was Cat Gardens. Fifth was Spy Walls. Sixth was Rally Red. Seventh was Grixis Affinity. And eighth was Rally Red. And then the two near misses, ninth was Elves. And 10th was Mono Red Madness. So basically, the furthest you could come from the first two challenges is where we're at now, with all the aggro sort of dissipating to the bottom and basically a load of control with FAMS, Cat Gardens, Green Black Fog, Grixis Affinity, all doing well.
Pretty interesting shift. Obviously Green Black Fog coming out of nowhere, but again, from the last two challenges, I guess makes sense, right? To some extent. A load of aggro. Here's a bunch of fog and weathers, I guess. Makes sense. Yeah. The interesting thing to note, I guess, as well, which we touched on before recording, was 4 Writhing Chrysalis in the sideboard. Main against mid-range, got to win.
Is that a Magic Online-ism? That I can't finish 2 games in this much time? I need an alternate win condition.
Maybe, but I also think regardless of Magic Online or not, I think Fog can't close 2 games out in paper half the time.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's very true.
I would agree with you if it was another deck, but Fog in general can't finish a game anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it probably is just that, and also just let's be honest, it's the best mid-range creature. It just stops every creature. It stops other Writhing Chrysalis until they see another Writhing Chrysalis.
True. It's just a brick wall. If you don't need to use your fogs if you've got a brick wall in play. Moving on to Sunday.
I was just checking to see if it was the FAMS player was blue-white. I just wanted to mention that. They weren't splashing the pyros in the sideboard. And the 5th and last day, and yesterday, the day before's, have both featured Beast Rider Vanguard in some sort of lists. I'm sure I've seen it twice now, which is pretty interesting. Just a random thing to note. Other than that, fire away.
The Sunday challenge, obviously, usually the spiciest challenge, and this week is no exception. Sunday the 21st of December, 62 players, so slightly down from our 64 target, but not too bad. First place was Mono Red Madness. Second place was Jund Wildfire, piloted by Hyson, so repping some PFP in the challenge, which is sweet to see. Third place FAMS, fourth place Grixis Affinity, fifth place Bogles, sixth place Blue Black Fair, seventh place Green Black Fog, and eighth place Jeskai Wildfire. And then the two near misses, 9th is Mono Blue Terror, and 10th is Red Green Ramp. People trying stuff in this challenge. This was the same Daniel Mono Red Madness list with the 2 Skittering Kittens instead of 2 Lutons. So I'm assuming that is sort of going well. The Bogles list from Ixodor was one I really wanted to touch on. For the most part, it just looks like a straight up Bogles list. But it has 4 crew fixes inside in the main deck.
Baller. Which
is like a mega Malevolent Rumble, basically. It's 2 and a green for a sorcery. Reveal top 6 cards of your library, and you can take 3 enchantments from them. And the rest go in your graveyard. I think to fit this in, they've basically cut down like Rancors. There's only 2 of. There's no like lifelink or anything enchantment other than the Armadillo Cloak. So trimmed on some of the extras. They've also got 1 of Wild Growth as well, which I'm assuming is to make it a lot more easy, or a lot easier to cast these 3-drop crew fixes inside.
I'm really surprised this isn't running the dog. Spirited Companion, like to wait.
You can get it, but it's just bad.
I know it's bad, but it's just like I don't know. I just feel like 3 enchantments. Obviously, you're probably not gonna miss, right?
No. You've got what 26.
Yeah, but,
and you're seeing 6 cards.
And then like other things that I was thinking there is like you could also max out on other effects that you can cast from the bin, right? Like Sentinel's Eyes is only a 2 of. Sort of helps with the graveyard thing, like little things like that, which sort of surprised me. Light wheel enhancements, yeah. Say, look, you can go light.
Yeah, I could definitely see more Sentinel's Eyes being correct, but the problem is like you're probably not hitting like 4 or 5 enchantments. So like to make the Sentinel's Eyes make sense in the the crew fixes sort of line. You need to hit 3 enchantments you want and a Sentinel's Eyes. Which I think with 26 enchantments, I think you're probably hitting 3, but I think you're probably hitting 3. Like, I don't think you're hitting 4, 5, 6 most of the time.
Yeah, I can definitely say that for sure. But it just seems odd. Like, it seems like a good card. Like, I guess it lets you keep going. Like, it won't let you run out of gas when you've got your one guy and you're going in and you're like, right, I need this enchantment, I've won. Or I need 2 more enchantments, I've won. Like, I get that. It doesn't help with resiliency, though. Like, it doesn't let you overload the opponent.
But I think, to be fair, for Bogles at the moment, the biggest thing it struggles with is it makes a big guy and then just never finds a way to give it trample. Like, I always feel like when I'm watching a Bogles matchup, it's just this massive slippery Bogle just getting blocked by his spawn because the guy's top decking and can never find, like, a Rancor or an Armadillo Cloak. Where this, like, you make your big guy and then you look at the top 6 cards to, like, find the enchantment that you need to get through.
Yeah, it is not. I do agree generally. Yeah, that it's like it does seem to happen that way. Is then the first card to cut seem because obviously they're on 2 Rancors here as well as 4 Armadillo Cloak. Like,
yeah, I'm not a fan of 2 Rancors. I do like Rancors.
Yeah, like a lot of the list does seem like it's cut a lot of things to try these. Which again, maybe it was just to try a 4 of and it sort of worked out well. That they ended up running hot. And maybe next week they'll see a 2 of. Like, and maybe that might be the slot. Like, that might be just like, this is a good extension card. Like, I need maybe a couple of these. Good draw later on. But, yeah, all around, it's an interesting card to try. 3 mana draw 3's not awful for a green-white deck.
Outside of that, the only other deck really is the Jeskai Wildfire. Worth highlighting. As I mentioned sort of at the top of the draw, there's a Ride's End seeing some play in here. Getting it in more decks. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting. Well, it's pretty interesting at the moment, really, to see Jeskai Wildfire at all. Junda's definitely taken the Wildfire mantle from it. Yeah. But this has some pretty interesting options in. With the one of Ride's End, there's 2 Torch the Towers as well. Yeah, I really do like Torch the Tower in general. I feel like it's a really great metagame call, even if you can't bargain it. Like, the only real way this is bargaining it right is from a Murmur Mystic Bird token, right? Something along the lines. Yeah. I think, especially in just a control pile, though, where Sneaky Snacker is going to do you in. Exactly. A clean answer to Sneaky Snacker, whether it be Ride's End or Torch the Tower, is good and needed. Yeah, I definitely agree with. I think, to me though, like obviously Ride's End will do the same, but like exiling other annoying threats in more like it's not just like obviously Snacker's the big oppressor now in like, for example, in Madness, for example. But like hitting things that mean that there can't be Blood Fountain back is like a real thing. There's a lot of uses of exiling these creatures. So, and I really like the idea of obviously testing the norms of we're not running like there's no Bolt in this list, like which is really cool to see. Like there's 3 Screds, 1 Thraben Charm, 1 Ride's End, 2 Torture Towers as like your actual removal on a Fire and Ice, I guess. And that's like I am going to exile stuff, and if not, I'm going to kill big things. And that to me seems like an incredible place to be. Like that's assessing the metagame and saying, right, this is what I want to do. I don't want to lose to look at me Blood Fountain and stuff back. Look at me Snacker in this back. I think it's a really cool thing to do. Assess what you're gonna die to in a control deck like this. It's really cool. Yeah, definitely. I think the Blood Fountain sort of point is quite apt as well. Like obviously against Jund Wildfire in particular with refurbished familiars, you don't want to bolt a familiar and then Blood Fountain it back and play it again. Like that's just awful for you. So if you can Torch the Tower them, pretty good. Yeah, for sure. Cool. So even though go and like torch the tower, ephemerate my Archaeomancer, get back, torch the tower, like, and just removing all the threats so that the Blood Fountains are just dead is sort of not impossible as well. Yep, 100%. Big fan of this list as much as you can be a fan of Jeskai Ephemerate, but it also is just assessing the metagame and tackling it. Which I really like. Anything else you want to touch on?
I just want to mention the 10th place red-green ramp deck. Nothing too crazy on fairly self-explanatory ramp stuff. Numbers are a bit not how I would run it, but still fine. You've got, your 7 enchantments instead of 8. Stuff like that. Playing 3 Borden Pies, which is whatever. But mainly, of course, I would like to shout out the sideboard card. Gotta keep an eye for the Sky Shaper. Let's go.
I haven't seen this in like 10 years.
So for those that don't know what Sky Shaper is, it's a 2-mana artifact, and you sacrifice Sky Shaper. Creatures you control gain flying until end of turn. That's it. It's a great thing to get rid of board stalls, given your Writhing Chrysalis, your Boredom Party, your Nyxborn Hydra, all that sort of stuff flying. Obviously good at defensively. You can obviously make it so your Boredom Party can block a flyer if you really want.
It's an interesting one because obviously we've seen the guy from Kamigawa, right? That you can channel.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
The little green guy.
Shinnon of Life.
Sort of. That's the one. Sort of in this slot, which is basically like a 2-mana or 1 or something stupid like that makes things block it, and you can discard it and make everything block like one guy that you've got on board.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty bad to cascade into. Sky Shaper's obviously much better to cascade into because you can just have it sit in play and not do anything. It's harder to remove than an all-one. But then this list doesn't have that much cascade anyway. It doesn't have the dinosaurs. It's only got 3 boredom parties. So I don't know if something like Shinnon is just better because like nowadays Sky Shaper, the matchups you want it in against are like the mirrors for the most part, but they've got Sagus, they've got Ents, they've got Writhing Chrysalises that like all just have reach.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if obviously it's not really, but it kind of can, depending on how. So it obviously gives flying, so you can stop Crackland Shaman to an extent, but it doesn't work well.
Does it? Does it though? It has to be in play.
So I think the thing is though, it stops toxin Crackland, right? Because if they go Crackland Toxin, you can respond to the Toxin by giving them flying.
Yeah,
then they have to then commit to sacking a board and then don't get the Death Touch. So like if your guys are big, it sort of works. So
you guys aren't that big though.
No, but you're in against, say, for example, Jund Wildfire, which has Crackland Shaman and thing. They either have to sack a bunch of lands, generally, because it'll be quite early on, like you're playing these cards. Like obviously you are a ramp deck. Like, the idea is you're just going to curve out. Then you go Sky Shaper. Like, it's sort of... I'm not saying it's the best answer, but it works at what you want it to do. Like, Crackland Shaman...
Do you not just play, like, Rapping Vigor or something? I don't know. Or something to give them indestructible. I don't know. It seems like a very poor answer in that situation.
I do agree.
That, like, the unblockable side of it is also just bad against Jund Wildfire because they have Familiars and Chrysalises and Hydras.
But... it seems like I'm sort of at the point where I would say it's probably more of a, it's okay to board in the mirror and it's probably there for Toxin, like Crackland Toxin is how I'm seeing this.
But what if they just play the Crackland Shaman and then like start sacking stuff?
Yeah, obviously. Like it doesn't beat like Crackland with a bunch of artifacts.
It doesn't beat Crackland Shaman for the most part.
It just depends on what you're concerned about at the time, and I feel like getting rid of your giant Writhing Chrysalises and your giant Avenging Hunters are like your biggest problem. Like you can't help, like the problem is there's no clean answer for Crackland generally.
No, in red green,
yeah. So that's what I mean. So it's like it might just be I'm gonna lose to a big Crackland Shaman anyways, but at least I can stop a guy going Wildfire something, Crackland Shaman Toxin, and then that's sort of like that's my game plan. If I can stop the Toxin, it's enough to get the damage through. I can sort of see it, because your 8 game is I'm going to attack the Jund Wildfire before they can stabilize with a Writhing Chrysalis or a Crackland to clear the board. And it sort of like does do that. It doesn't do it well, don't get me wrong, but it does it, and it's better than, okay, I just got to hope and pray they don't have a Crackland.
I mean, it's pretty neat. It's like a who jumps first moment though. Like if they just start sacking stuff, like... You're just gonna let your board die and keep it in play, like.
Yeah, I do agree.
But then if you sack it, they just sack something else and toxin it, like, or they just toxin it and sack the clue. Like, the point in which it lines up is they have Crackland Shaman. They only have 1 artifact. They cast toxin first. But
they don't generally though. A Jund deck like in that sort of matchup, they don't have the time to be going. I'm gonna Wellspring. I'm gonna Blood Fountain. I'm gonna Refurb. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And like get like 12 artifacts in play.
They play lands and Blood Fountains and Refurbs. Like Toxin makes an artifact anyway. Like,
Yeah, I know, I get that, but but they don't have
and
enough.
You guys for the most part are like 3 toughness or 4 toughness. Like, they're not that big.
Yeah, but again, I wouldn't say like for the most part that have readily 4 artifacts to go out.
But by the time you've got multiple 4 toughness guys in play,
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, for sure.
I think you're probably off on your map.
No, I don't. I genuinely don't think they play that many artifacts to basically do that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is the cleanest answer. Is not what I'm saying. But I'm saying for the most part, they will not be able to stabilize that many artifacts very regularly, and then go, I've got 4 artifacts to go. I'm going to sack them all. Oh, you give them flying. I go toxin. That's a lot of tools for them to do.
Yeah, but they don't even have the toxin though. They sack 4.
Yeah.
Give them flying, then they just sack 1 more.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So then you're saying they have to have then 5 and then 6. And I just don't think that's the availability for what they're gonna do. Like, that's my point. I'm trying. Like, I don't think it. Don't get me wrong. It's not the greatest answer in the world, but I think that's
awful.
But I don't think it's as bad as nothing, because you lose to Crackland Shaman anyway. This deck folds to Crackland Toxin, or it loses to a big Crackland. So like Grixis Affinity, sure, you're gonna lose to it anyways, because they're gonna have a million artifacts. They're just gonna. Every land they play is an artifact. You're talking turn 4, they've got like 6, 7, 8 artifacts that can kill your board. But Jund will have 4 maximum on a good time. Like, most of the time they'll end up playing 2 bridges. And if they've got another artifact, I'm like, sure. Like, they don't run that, like, you don't fold to a Dust to Dust, for example, like Grixis does, because they don't have that many artifacts. So therefore, it's not awful. It's like, better than nothing is what I'm saying. And I still think it's probably the reason why it's in there compared to other things. Like, you're more likely to board against Jund Wildfire than you are the Mirror. So, but it's interesting to test for sure. Be interesting to see if other people try it in when Green-Red moves forward in the weeks. But I don't know how popular it's going to be. Other than that, the other thing to mention is obviously the split on the artifact hate as well. For that deck. So they decide on 1 cast into fire, 2 to glamours, 1 reclamation, which is an interesting place to stand.
I feel like this is the place where you put your Jund Wildfire answers.
But what
you've cut the glamour cast into the fire, remove their red sources for Sky Shaper.
Yeah, but again, the moving from like elves, mass vandal, and the red source, it's sort of moved past that. Like, the metagame's more on, I'm going to aggressively search for my mountain. And then it's like, are you going to then put in Thermos to then beat the red source? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, where does that then move to? Does it move to Thermo, or does it move to destroy/exile a land to sort of make sure you can hit every land source? Is that like the way it moves to?
If you're playing cast into the fire, though, it sort of just wins both sides, though, right? Because you either remove the land early, or if the toxin the guy, you just kill it in response.
No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if you bring so then do you just go to what 4 cast into fires and just hope to catch both? Is that basically what you're saying? Like,
well, I think just cast into the fire is a better answer to Jund Wildfire's Crackland and the deck in general than Shaper. Or to Glamour, really. I think this probably shouldn't be playing to Glamours, but I guess the red's sort of harder to cast, maybe.
That's what I mean. Do you then go 4 caster fires, struggle to hit your red source, but then...
I don't think it ever struggles to hit a red source.
No, but I'm saying, like, you can, though. Like, obviously you can do that. I'm not saying it's, like, guaranteed, but then it's that versus... They're also, I said, they've moved past... most of my red sources are off bridges. They've moved to having, like...
Yeah, they have a single mountain.
They run 1 or 2 mountains with obviously the landscapes to aggressively search for them. So it's like the elves. What I'm saying is like the elves, mass vandal, and their red sources is like moved past that.
Then you just ping the Crackland. If
that's what I'm saying.
Point where they've not got enough artifacts. If the argument is they don't have enough artifacts to kill your big guys anyway.
Yeah.
All you have to beat is the toxin, right?
Yeah, like I get that. I do. Like that's what I'm saying. So is that better? Probably, maybe. I don't know.
I would say so, because it's better in more matchups. Like, it gives you something against Affinity as well. Where it's like, at the moment, you've not really got anything. Like, you've cut to 2 to Glamours, 1 cast into the fire against Grixis. And we've just seen Grixis, like, top 8 all 4 challenges, right?
Which, again, I don't hate moving into more of having a readily available hate. Like, I think it should be more focused on one instead of splitting your packages up. Obviously, the big downside of casting the fire effects, which is more how the deck plays, right? It's like the weather effect, right? You've got to then hold up the 2 mana instead of casting spells, which can obviously be awkward, but how awkward that is, you'd have to obviously play this deck massively to understand that. Because when I played weather, it was pretty awkward because you're not really doing what you want to do, because you end up stop playing spells to sort of survive. Is that what you then have to do? With casting the Fire and Crackland again. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for the red-green deck and Sunday.
That was a lot for the red-green deck, to be fair. Only other thing I've got is the 13th place was, again, the Adaptor Elf list. That was the one of Gingerbread Cabin and the Land Grant Saga Wild thing. Mana base, which is cool to see. Nice to see a second variant of elves, basically. A lot of it's the same, but it seems pretty distinct.
They're still on the Spinewoods as well, which again, I don't know if I'm a massive...
I think just every card in that slot is pretty mediocre, though, so it doesn't really matter which mediocre one you pick.
I don't know if this is the mediocre of the mediocres. I don't know. We know Inspector's interesting, though, right? I always feel like Inspectors always should be the first one to run. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's slanted. It's got the blue package, so it's got the Hydroblasts and blue Elemental Blasts and stuff like that, so it maybe doesn't need it as much for the red matchup.
Yeah, see that. For sure.
No, I'm happy to move on.
So as we mentioned earlier, there's no hot takes. We're obviously looking at reworking the end segment. So that is all for this lovely episode. So thank you all for your continued support throughout of 2025. We will have an episode next week, obviously before 2026. So if you have enjoyed this podcast, please do not forget to share it with your friends, your family, your local Pauper community, and even your local Santa. Because obviously there's only one though. Honest. Don't tell your kids otherwise. That is all from us at Casting Commons. Until next time. And don't forget to stay hydrated. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.